Hey, how's it going, Do-It-Yourself First? Today we're going to go over some nice tricks and tips to help you pass one of these. And by these, I'm talking about the dreaded emissions test. Alright, so first I'll give you some tips on how best you can increase your odds of passing an emissions test. Then I'll show you a trick that you can use to attempt to pass an emissions test even with a check engine light. Alright, the biggest mistake and the number one reason why your car probably didn't pass emissions is because you didn't drive your car long enough before you took it in for a test. See, the most important component of your car that's related to emissions is going to be your catalytic converter, which is always going to be located on your exhaust pipe, but in our case, as you can see, it's conveniently located right up here. It's usually further down on the exhaust pipe underneath the car. And your catalytic converter works more efficient the hotter it gets. That's why it's so important to drive your car for a good 20 to 30 minutes on the freeway preferably to get that nice and warm so it can burn all the excess emissions coming out of your engine. Also, if possible, it's a good idea to let the car idle while waiting for your turn to get your emissions test so this doesn't cool down. And next, you preferably want to have some premium grade fuel in your gas tank because premium fuel simply burns cleaner and more efficient, therefore increasing your chances of passing your emissions test. Next, if your oil change is past due and you haven't replaced your oil for a long time, it's a good idea to replace it because a dirty or contaminated oil can cause you to fail your emissions test. But even more important than that, you want to make sure you don't have a clogged or dirty air filter, especially if they test for emissions at idle where you are. Because if this is clogged, not enough air is going to be able to get in there, and you're not going to have a good enough combustion, which is going to cause you to have increased levels of emissions, which could potentially cause you to fail an emissions test. Next, you want to make sure your tires are properly inflated, because if they're kind of flat, when you get the car on the dyno to test for emissions, it's going to seem to your car that there's extra load on the car, therefore the computer is going to pump more gas in there, which is going to raise your emissions and potentially cause you to fail your emissions test. Also, if you can help it, you don't want to take your car in on a rainy day because if your tires get wet and they get on the dyno, they can slip, which would cause put an extra load on your engine, therefore raising your emissions. Alright, next let's talk about what are some things you can do to increase your chances of passing an emissions test if your check engine light happens to be on. Alright, now if you have a check engine light on, then obviously I would recommend you try to fix that. Either get the code and then try to fix it yourself or pay someone to do it for you. So next, after you fix the problem that's causing your check engine light or simply want to take your chances with an emissions test, you're going to have to reset your car's computer to get rid of that check engine light. And this is how you do it, but before we go on, it's your responsibility to check with your local and state laws to make sure this procedure is not going to be breaking any emissions related laws or rules where you live. Alright, so generally speaking, if you have a 1995 or older vehicle, all you have to do to reset your car's computer is to disconnect your negative battery terminal and then wait about 10 to 15 minutes and reconnect it, and that usually resets your car's computer and turns off your check engine light. Now on the other hand, if you have a 1996 vehicle or newer, things are going to be a little bit different. 96 and newer vehicles are OBD2 compliant, and therefore you're going to have to use a scanner, but a scanner also has to be capable of reading the status of your IM monitors. And if you're wondering, IM stands for Inspection and Maintenance Monitors. Those are basically the monitors for your emissions related systems. Also, don't let the scanner scare you. You can get the smaller version of this for under 25-30 bucks and it will do the same thing. Alright, so next you basically plug in your scanner to your OBD2 connector, and then you have a screen like this. So you would normally go to erase your codes to reset your check engine light. You press that, you press continue, make sure the key is in the on position. So it does its magic, and then it will turn off your check engine light afterwards. Alright, now you could have done the same thing by disconnecting your battery terminals to reset your check engine light, but the problem with the 96 and newer cars is when you go in for your inspection, your emissions inspection, they're going to hook up the Smog machine's computer to the OBD2 port on your car's computer, and then they're going to check your IM monitors. Again, these monitors are for the different emissions related systems on your car, like your misfire monitor, you get your fuel system, catalytic converter, heated catalyst, evap, your O2 sensors, secondary air systems, and depending on your car's make and model, you're going to have a different number of monitors, but basically you're only allowed to have maybe one or two of these systems depending on where you live to show as incomplete, and these systems will reset whenever you reset your car's computer. So basically what you'll need to do is to start driving your car, and after a certain number of drive cycles you're going to have more of these monitors showing complete. And then once you achieve the right number of completes, or in other words, once you only have 1 or 2 incompletes left, as you can see here next to each system, then you can take in your car for an inspection. And again, different makes and models have different number of these systems or monitoring systems. So if you see an A, that simply means that that system is not applicable to your car's make and model. Now if you do all that but still fail the emissions part of your inspection, fear none, because I'm going to do a follow-up video showing you how you can diagnose the different emissions like HC, CO, or NOx readings that you might see on your report and go about fixing it. And I'll put a link to that video along some other related videos on this side of the screen that you can click on them. There'll also be links in the description box. But if you like this video, give this one a thumbs up, subscribe if you want to see more like it, and I'll see you next time. Alright, thanks for watching.